How's it going, guys? Welcome to another technical analysis tutorial. This time we're going to be discussing three things: support, resistance, pivot points. What do they mean, how to trade with them, how to make money with it. So with that said, the chart we're looking at today is a chart of Tesla Motors. It's a one-day chart, each candlestick representing 1 day of trading. So we go back a few months here on the chart, but the reason I'm picking Tesla is because we have all these wild swings and also really good volume, so it'll be pretty easy to identify pivot points on it. Now, what is support? A support line is any area that was tested multiple times where the price bounced off and then continued to run or either consolidated, but it held the levels. So you could consider this a support line because it was tested here as support, it was tested here as support, and it was tested here as support. Now, what's resistance? Resistance is any area that was tested but the price couldn't beat it, it got denied and maybe fell off. So this is a really good area to look at resistance. You can see here, resistance, resistance, resistance. All along here was tested a whole bunch. Then once again, resistance and resistance. All right, so let's get those out of the way. So you've seen what support is, you've seen what resistance is in case you didn't already know. You might have already known anyway, but what's a pivot point? A pivot point is any support or resistance area that was tested multiple times and became a key area of price movement. So a pivot point can act as support or resistance. In technical analysis, we have a rule that once an area of support is broken to the downside, it then acts as resistance because the price needs to break back up again, break up above it again rather. And once an area of resistance is broken to the upside, it then becomes support because it can bounce off that area that used to be resistance. So that's why we call them pivot points, to keep it simple. So you can actually see firsthand some of those pivot points. So let's redraw this line because it was a pretty good example. Get it nice and neat. Almost there. There we go. So let's go ahead and see where we were tested. So it was tested here as resistance, 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 resistance. But then all along this area, it was tested as support and resistance. A ton of price action here. So you could absolutely say this was a pivot point. Resistance once again and resistance once again. But it also acted as support over here. Now if we go and look at another line, let's just kind of see where we had a lot of price action. And I like this area right here actually. So right around 180. You can see it was acting as resistance here, but then it became support actually, and though our candles dipped below, they basically bounced off the 200-day moving average right there, and then became support again on this pivot point. And then, once again, we came down from that run, and we literally bounced right off this line, so acted as support there. Then once again, it tried to act as support here, but the downtrend was too strong, so the support was broken, and then it came back up. It acted as resistance. It's probably difficult for you to see, but there's 3 candles that were denied on this line right before it broke up above it here, so you could absolutely say that that's a pivot point. Now let's go find one more area to take a look at so you guys can really get a clean idea of how to identify these areas. So we tested this as resistance. Then it became support all along here. You can see it was support. Then resistance over here, but it broke up and became support. Over here, support. It broke down below, became resistance. Then it broke up above, became support again. Support, support. And then over here, it's really hard to see. There's a ton of price action though. And it looks like it was tested as support and resistance multiple times in this area. Then over here, our candle did dip below it, but we ended up still basically almost bouncing off it. Then over here, we bounced off this line 3 times, 1, 2, 3, as support. Here, it was acting as resistance once the support was broken. And then here, once again, resistance once the support was broken. But what's really neat is you can see it was resistance right here. And then right over here, it became support because our candles literally bounced right off it. So all that said, guys, it's pretty easy to identify these pivot points. But at the same time, there's a little bit more that goes into it than just plotting those points out. You want to get an exact number amount. So what I like to do is plot the points out on the 1-day chart here and then work my way down. I'll go down from the 1 day to maybe the 2 hour to the 1 hour to the 30-minute frames. And I'll look to see on an intraday level how often those pivot points were tested and how viable they are currently. And it's really interesting because a lot of the time you'll plan these pivot points out and then you'll be trading the next day after you already put them all on your chart, and you'll see that the next day the pivot points definitely act as key areas. You'll see the price run up and maybe get denied at a pivot point, or it'll break a pivot point and then act as support. And you'll see this after you've already plotted those lines out. So it really confirms that it works. And this will happen, I guarantee you, if you guys spend the time doing what I just showed you in this video, but also doing it on the lower time frames as well to confirm that the area was tested multiple times. You will see that once you have these lines on the chart and you don't touch them anymore, that the next day or the next few days, once that price level is near, it's definitely going to act as support or resistance depending on the market sentiment. So it's really, really interesting. I highly recommend looking into pivot points. Not all traders use them. Some traders don't use pivot points at all. But that said, they are a fairly popular, I would say even a very popular way of trading. It's great at identifying support and resistance points. Great for timing your entries and exits. All around, I would definitely recommend taking a look at using pivot points in your trading strategy. That said, I think I said that said a lot in this video. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this. Any questions, leave a comment below. I wanted to keep this a pretty short video, so I'm not going to go into super detailed information here. But if you watch this video, you definitely have enough basics to go ahead and look for your own pivot points. Wish you guys best of luck. Catch you later.